Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone 12 Pro Max has been out for a year. It seems like just yesterday we started using this, and now we have the iPhone 13 Pro Max. And for the entire last year, I used the 12 Pro Max as my main phone when I wasn't reviewing other phones. And so I want to talk about the overall durability, since I don't use a screen protector or a case, since I like the feel of the phone. And I want to talk about the battery life and whether or not you should pick one up, whether or not you should upgrade, and help you decide on what's the best phone for you. And now the first thing is its durability. Like I said, I don't use a screen protector, and that's typically because I like the feel of the glass, and I'm also durability testing it for videos like this, and I like the feel of the phone. Now, the first thing I noticed right away is the weight is definitely less than the 13 Pro Max. While it's not significantly less, you can feel the difference when you switch between the two. You'll easily get used to the heavier 13 Pro Max, but the 12 Pro Max is a little bit lighter and is slightly thinner, so you can feel that if you use these every single day. You can tell the difference. But like I said, you can get used to it, and it's not really an issue, but the 12 Pro Max is a little bit better in that regard, in my opinion. Now, as far as the durability goes, well, the overall frame of the phone is held up well. There's not really any noticeable scratches, and it seems to be fairly durable. You'll see I do have some dirt and things within the speaker or the microphone, and you need to use some sticky tack or something to get that out, but it's held up really well. There's not really any noticeable scratches. On the silver version, you'll definitely see some more, but on this version, it seems to be pretty good. And the camera has held up well also, so the camera doesn't have any scratches on it. I set it down on a table, it gets some dust on it, but it doesn't have any scratches, and I just set it down on a table and have no issues with it there. The display is held up well also. Now, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this due to the light, but you can see there's a slight scratch right there, and then there's some very fine micro scratches on it. But for the most part, there's not really anything noticeable except for that scratch there, and that's completely my fault, where I dropped it on a tripod and it just fell and then sort of put that little scratch in there early on. That fell off a desk onto a tripod stand and hit a metal piece. Other than that, though, the micro scratches are so fine that you have to be in just the right conditions in order to see it. So really no issues there. So it's held up very, very well. Definitely better than the 11 Pro Max that had scratches all over it at this point and is heavily scratched. If you've seen my 1-year review or 2-year review on that, you'll see how many scratches are on it. So ceramic shield is definitely more durable. Now, I have not dropped this phone, so it's held up really well that way. I don't have any dings on the frame or anything, but it's held up well, like I said. Now, as far as the durability of the battery, well, this is still an all-day phone with iOS 15, 15.1, no problems there. But if we go to the battery, my battery health over the past year went down to 94%. Apple says 80% after 2 years is normal, so about 10% a year is normal, and I put this on a fast charger every single night. So I would put this on a MagSafe charger and then just put it on a regular charger from time to time, or when I was in the car. I always wirelessly charged it, and rarely did I plug it in to charge. I'll probably do that since my battery's getting low now, and it's doing okay. 94% is fine after an entire year of regular use and not paying attention to it at all. In fact, I've said this many times, I wish Apple would get rid of this and just replace it with good or bad and time to replace, since it causes anxiety for a lot of people. Now, you can see this has not been my main phone since the 13 Pro Max has come out, but it does easily get me through a day. There is not one single day, unless there was an issue with a software update, where I thought I needed more battery. I can get through about a day and a half. By the time I went to bed, I easily had 40 to 50% battery life left. Now, if I compare that with the 13 Pro Max, which I'm actually recording this video with, the 13 Pro Max is definitely better. It gets 2 days of use for most people. It's got a huge battery in it. Apple did a great job this year with that, and it seems to hold up very well as far as the battery. The 12 Pro Max is still the best phone as far as iPhones other than the 11 Pro Max, but the 13 Pro Max just beats them both out when it comes to battery life overall. But either way, it's still fine, and it's more than enough for most people, and then it fast charges pretty quickly, 50% in 30 minutes or so. So no issues there if you need to just charge it up. Now, its overall speed does not feel slow, whether you're using the latest version of iOS. Some people say that Apple slows this down, and I heavily disagree with that. I don't really see any slowdowns whatsoever. It feels fast and fluid like it always did. Now, it doesn't have Pro Motion like the 13 Pro Max does, so you can notice a difference there with scrolling if you use that, but for the most part, it's super fluid and smooth, just like any other iPhone ever has been. So going into different applications, load nice and fast. If you go to Listen Now or Library, Everything seems to load pretty quickly. I don't really have any issues there. I definitely recommend this to people if they're still wanting something with a great display. It's super bright. As you can see, we're in bright sunlight, and I have the screen not all the way turned up, but it's up quite a bit. Now, one issue with the 12 Pro Max is it will overheat a little bit. If you turn the screen all the way up, it will actually get really hot and then sort of pull the screen down if it's warm outside, or in a case where it gets too warm. So that's something that's unfortunate about the 12 Pro Max that doesn't seem to affect the 13 Pro Max as much. So I've had many instances where I'm recording video and it will pull the screen down because the phone's getting too hot. It's trying to cool itself off, and that's pretty understandable, but it's something that's annoying when you're in bright sunlight and you can't see it. However, currently it seems to be okay, and it's fairly cool outside today. So it's about an ambient temperature of just under 70 degrees Fahrenheit. In that sort of weather, it's fine. But if you live in a hotter climate, the 12 series phones definitely get very, very warm from time to time and seem to have an issue cooling themselves down from time to time. The 13 definitely fixes that, so if that's a concern, maybe you'd want to go to the 13 if you don't have the 12 already. So like I said, speed is fine, and you'll have updates for many years to come, probably until 2025, 2026, or beyond. So that's something that I think Apple will support this for many, many years. Speakers have held up well. They still sound great. They don't have any sort of crackles to them. They haven't blown or anything, although I have heard from a few people that did have that issue. So you can bring that to Apple if it's still under warranty and you have Apple Care, but otherwise it hasn't been an issue for most people. Now, like I said, I'm recording this video with a 13 Pro Max. However, the camera on the 12 Pro Max is phenomenal. So if we go to video, you still have 4K HDR, no issues there. The only thing I noticed that's different is really the autofocus system. The autofocus system on the 13 Pro Max seems to keep the focus a little bit better. As I bring objects closer, it stays in focus a little bit better. And you see now I'm in low battery because I'm running the camera, but focus seems better on the 13 Pro Max than the 12 Pro Max. While the 12 Pro Max cameras are great, the 13 Pro Max are a little better if you're recording a lot of video. They have better low light. But the 12 Pro Max, up until now, was the best video camera out there. So you still have ultra wide and, of course, that 2.5 times zoom, but you get 3 times zoom on the 13 Pro Max. So if you don't already have a 12 Pro Max, I would opt for the 13 Pro Max. However, if you have a 12 Pro Max, there's not really a reason to upgrade if you just want a better video camera, as it is a little bit better in the newer phones, but it's not tremendously better. So you'll still get great photos and video, of course, and I use them all the time for recording this as well as audio, since the microphones are so good as well. So the cameras, Apple really spends a lot of time on those, and the video cameras are top-notch. Until maybe some new generations of other phones come out, it's hard to beat any of the iPhones for video recording or even audio. If you want to use this microphone, maybe for voice memos, just set it nearby or use it with a wireless mic or a wired mic. They really work very well, and you can rely on it, and it's dependable. As far as anything else, well, I still highly recommend the 12 Pro Max, but Apple no longer sells it new. So that might be an issue, of course, if you're trying to find one, but they do sell it refurbished and through other retailers. So I still think it's a great phone. It's super fast. It's very fluid. Of course, you don't have ProMotion, and the notch is a little bit larger, but the new notch is narrower but protrudes a little bit further into the display. So that may be a concern for some, but otherwise I think the notch is here to stay for a little while. Maybe they'll remove it later on. But if you don't like the notch, then of course you'll want to wait until maybe a future phone is released, or stick with maybe an 8 Plus. So those are great phones as well. Let me know if you're still using a 12 Pro Max or 12 Pro or any of those phones. Again, like I said, they're great phones, and there's no reason to upgrade unless you really want better battery, a little bit better camera, and that ProMotion display. Otherwise, everything's just as good. It's very durable and seems to be holding up very well. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.